Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, our topic of discussion is earthquakes. Earthquakes can be considered as one of the most difficult natural disasters to predict on Earth. Regarding earthquakes, I guess everyone has some understanding. Today, let's take a closer look at the earthquakes you are familiar with. There are several reasons for the occurrence of earthquakes in a region, mainly including the movement of continental plate boundaries, volcanic activities, human activities, adjustments of internal stresses in the crust, and fault activities. Most of the earthquakes we observe on Earth are caused by the movement of continental plates. For example, the Pacific Ring of Fire, which is a seismic and volcanic belt encircling the Pacific Ocean, involving the west coast of the United States, Canada, Mexico, Central America, the west coast of South America, Alaska, the Russian Far East, Japan, the Philippines, Indonesia, and New Zealand. Other regions include the Himalayan area, the Mediterranean Asian Minor Seismic Belt, the East African Rift, and the Andes Mountains, among others. Generally speaking, major earthquakes mainly occur in these areas, due to the accumulation of stresses caused by the displacement of these continental plates, leading to constant small and large earthquakes in the boundary areas. There is also a major earthquake cycle. When the stress accumulated by the plate displacement reaches a certain level, it causes the concentrated release of pressure at the plate boundaries, resulting in larger earthquakes. This is the inescapable disaster of these regions. Types of earthquakes. During an earthquake, there are usually two states, shaking and swaying, commonly referred to as P waves, primary waves, and S waves, secondary waves. P waves are the first physical waves to be felt during an earthquake, mainly characterized by shaking. S waves are the primary source of destruction during an earthquake, usually manifesting as horizontal and vertical shaking. The displacement of S waves is about 1.4 times that of P waves. Since S waves primarily involve horizontal displacement, they generate strong shear forces on most buildings, causing structural damage. Earthquakes are classified into four types based on the depth of their focus: very shallow, shallow, intermediate, and deep earthquakes. Very shallow earthquakes refer to those with a focal depth of 0 to 30 kilometers. Shallow earthquakes, also known as shallow quakes, have a focal depth of 30 to 70 kilometers. Shallow earthquakes occur most frequently and have the greatest impact on humans, with over 95% of continental earthquakes being shallow. Usually, in earthquake information, very shallow and shallow earthquakes are collectively referred to as shallow earthquakes, and they are not typically distinguished into two separate categories. Intermediate earthquakes, with a focal depth between 70 to 300 kilometers. Over 90% of intermediate earthquakes occur along the Pacific Ring of Fire and generally do not cause disasters. Deep earthquakes, with a focal depth of over 300 kilometers, frequently occur near the deep ocean trenches around the Pacific. Earthquake magnitude. The classification of earthquake magnitude we commonly use is based on the Richter scale. The Richter magnitude scale is a measure of earthquake intensity proposed by American seismologist Charles F. Richter in 1935. It primarily measures the largest amplitude recorded on standard seismographs and is the most frequently used scale for earthquake classification. The magnitude difference of one level corresponds to a tenfold difference in amplitude. For perceptible earthquakes, an amplitude of 1 mm is classified as a magnitude 3 earthquake on the Richter scale, and an amplitude of 1 cm as magnitude 4. This pattern continues accordingly. Moreover, the energy released increases by about 31.6 times with each increasing level. An earthquake of magnitude 6 on the Richter scale releases energy approximately equivalent to a little boy atomic bomb. Based on this, a magnitude 7 earthquake releases energy equivalent to about 31.6 little boy atomic bombs. The Richter scale has its flaws in measurement. Due to the limitations of the earthquake intensity spectrum ratio, there is a saturation effect when measuring earthquakes above magnitude 7. This means that the values measured for earthquakes above magnitude 7 are essentially the same. Therefore, seismic bureaus worldwide now use improved methods of measurement. Most currently use the moment magnitude scale. The new measurement method, after data adjustment, closely aligns with the original Richter scale. The new approach can directly replace the Richter method of earthquake measurement. There is no significant numerical difference like that between Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature scales. Earthquake prediction? Can earthquakes be predicted? With the current level of technology, we have no means to predict earthquakes. The earthquake cycles often mentioned by experts are mainly derived from statistical results, not measured outcomes, so the error margin in earthquake cycles is vast, ranging from a few years to a century, which doesn't hold much significance for prevention. Even at the onset of an earthquake, we cannot determine whether it is a foreshock or the main shock. The identification of foreshocks, main shocks, and aftershocks is essentially a post-event analysis. Therefore, if you are located in an earthquake zone, it is recommended to make some simple preparations for earthquakes. Action guide during an earthquake. If an earthquake occurs and you're indoors, try to move to an open area as quickly as possible if it's a short distance away. It's not advisable to run, as the shaking ground can make you more likely to fall and get injured. If you cannot leave the building quickly, take shelter under a sturdy table or next to sturdy furniture, and avoid places near brick walls, exterior walls, and windows. If there are no sturdy pieces of furniture, finding a position near the building's beams, columns, and sheer walls is relatively safe. If the building lacks earthquake-resistant design or is too old, it's better to leave the building as soon as possible. Usually, there are smaller foreshocks before the main shock, so there should still be time to escape. If you live in a high-rise building, don't use the elevator when evacuating. If you encounter an earthquake while using the stairs, it's advised to leave the stairwell and continue evacuating after the shaking stops. It's recommended to prepare an earthquake emergency backpack for unforeseen situations. The backpack should contain the following items: 3 days worth of water and dry food, a basic first aid kit, an adequate number of power banks, a multifunctional tool, a small radio, a reasonable amount of cash, dust masks, protective goggles, waterproof clothing, a blanket, photocopies of important documents, personal hygiene products, a mobile phone charger, a regional map, etc. Consider including medication for chronic diseases if needed. If possible, place a few simple safety helmets near the exit of your home for added safety during evacuation. We can't stop or predict earthquakes, so prevention becomes even more important. If feasible, it's advised to prepare one emergency backpack per person, so you can just grab it and go in the event of an earthquake. As for other aspects of earthquake preparedness, such as seismic isolation in buildings, we won't cover them in this episode. After all, if a building has such planning, it's something you would likely investigate before purchasing. Most people don't specifically buy houses with these features, and the quality of construction isn't always visible to the naked eye. Moreover, if an earthquake reaches a magnitude of 7 or higher, it's hard to guarantee that the seismic resistance will be up to standard. Getting outdoors is the safest option. Don't think that you don't need to run for a minor quake, but can't run for a major one. Well, that's it for this episode. If you have more insights or experiences regarding earthquake prevention, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you for watching. See you next time.